I joined Roblox back in January 2014, and while I don't play it nearly as much as I used to as a kid, I still like going on the platform just to see what's new and occasionally play something mindless. Sometimes I'll go back to old games I used to play and to reminisce on my earlier days in Roblox in childhood. So today I'd like to invite you to a journey down my very specific memory lane and revisit these childhood classics. I found most of these games just by going through my old favorites and purchased game passes. Most of these games probably aren't completely unknown, but these are just games that I remember playing fondly or have vivid memories playing. Chaos Washers is a game developed by Fractality that was created on December 25th, 2008. It's basically just a ragdoll game where you can put yourself in a washer machine and watch yourself go around inside and bounce around. There's washing machines of several sizes, and larger washers can even fit more than one player, so you can watch you and others ragdoll around in a washing machine. For an impressionable child like I was, this was a pretty fun time waster, though I have no idea why I liked it as much as I did, because I would play this occasionally for at least 1 or 2 hours at a time. It's kind of funny going in the biggest washer and seeing yourself being flung all across the machine and sometimes even losing limbs or dying. I remember actually trying to get in all sorts of weird glitch states or trying to phase through the wall. I think my younger self was just naturally attracted to trying to break stuff given the wacky nature and physics of the game. There's a few secret rooms in the game, although they only give you badges. Other than that though, it's a pretty basic game, and that'll probably be a common theme throughout this video, seeing as these are older Roblox games. But if you like ragdoll games, this will definitely give you that fix. There's a sort of subgenre on Roblox that I used to play a lot, which consisted of recreations of real-life resorts and amusement parks or rides. This is still a prominent style of experience on Roblox, and probably the most notable one today being Universal Roblox Theme Park. One of the reasons why these games stuck to me as a kid was because I would actually search up the names of resorts that I would go to on Roblox, just out of curiosity to see if there was possibly a recreation of it. I remember me and my family went to J Peak Resort for a weekend in Vermont, and I actually searched it up the week after and found a pretty good recreation of the water park portion of the resort. I'm not sure if the game is still up because searching J Peak Resort doesn't yield any results, so if the game is still out there then I haven't found it, or it was just a game that closely resembled it, which is completely possible. One of my old favorites on my account is this Roblox Pump House 2016 by Oh Wow It's Sean. It's not directly related to J Peak Resort, but I do remember playing it. Sadly, the game and its sequel are both private now, but there is a video of it on YouTube, and I think it holds up decently well considering its age. As for the amusement park games in general, I don't have any particular vivid memories of playing any, but looking through my old favorites, I seem to have played a lot, which is ironic because I don't like going on rides at all, and I tend to decline going to amusement parks because it would just be a waste of money. I guess these virtual amusement parks sort of served as my way to experience them, albeit pretty underwhelming in comparison to the real experience, I'm sure. I still have some respect for these games as they were made way before modern remakes of the Disney and Universal amusement parks that really put you into the experience. But a lot of these older games are actually built pretty well and faithful to their originals. Voice chat was added to Roblox on November 8, 2021, and I don't know whether to think of it as one of the most hilarious or worst added features. Never mind the fact that you have to provide an official ID just to verify your age to use voice chat. Now you can just connect a phone number to your account to enable voice chat, which is a little better, but I'd still rather not give that personal information to Roblox. Anyways, way before Roblox had proper voice chat, there was actually something called Chat Voice developed by Mad Studio, which was a script that would take certain words or phrases typed out by your player in chat and would play an audio file depending on what you said, as long as it was part of the script list. I'm a fire in my laser! It was an amusing little addition, and according to this Reddit comment, it was actually a pretty popular script used in games. I remember encountering Chat Voice for the first time while I was just looking for a game to play and finding a Chat Voice Hangout game. These were games that were literally just made to interact with others using the Chat Voice script. I vividly remember how the first game that I played looked, although I have no idea what the title was or if it even still exists. All that I remember is using the "It's over 9,000" phrase, and that the game was set at night and had a small map layout with a path over grass and street lamps. Another game with Chat Voice that I played that's much more well known is Chat Voice 2 Trolling Place. It was created by Lolaris, the owner of Mad Studio. The phrase that I vividly remember from that game was, "Life is like a box of chocolates," which would then play the audio of the quote from the movie Forrest Gump. You could tell that chat voice was made in the early 2010s because of all the references that were just part of internet culture back then. Well, I only talked about 2 of them, but you could just search up a video of chat voice on Roblox to see more. As far as I'm aware, the chat voice script no longer works, and it makes sense seeing as the audio copyright situation from 2022 basically removed every copyrighted audio file from the Roblox library. Although I think even before then the script stopped working. This is definitely one of those creations that were just of its time, and there's no real reason that something like this would come back seeing as Roblox now has actual voice chat. But it is amusing, I'll give it that. Alright, now time to inject one of my childhood obsessions into this seemingly unrelated video because it was bound to happen one day. I was a big Thomas and Friends fan growing up, and I still consider myself a fan, though I wouldn't say that I actively rewatch episodes, but mostly just watch the Unlucky Tug videos. I think I would consider myself bordering more of a general railway enthusiast nowadays than specifically a Thomas fan. But that whole philosophical debate doesn't matter right now. If there was something that I was interested in as a kid, you better believe that I would try searching it up on Roblox to see if there were games made about it. In fact, I still do that now. Of course now, there's very well made Thomas role-playing games like Blue Train with Friends, Soto in 1955, and even games based on the toy product lines like Tomy and Wooden Railway. But back before any of those, Thomas games were a lot smaller and were much more representative of the time period that they were made in, to put it nicely. Don't get me wrong, these games were impressive for the time, but they obviously pale in comparison to modern games. One of the most well-known old Thomas Roblox games is the NXT Thomas game, which has been copied many times throughout the years, and there are versions that even attempt to recreate, fix, or add new content to the game, though this isn't the game that I'm going over. Instead, there was a game called Thomas and Friends by Roblox user Cooley93. It was a pretty expansive game with a large map for a Thomas game, and while the models of the trains weren't exactly as good as the NXT models, it made up for the large amount of characters featured and its map size. I remember playing this during the first month that I was on Roblox, though I don't really remember much more than that. My most vivid memories with this game are actually when I rediscovered it in my preteens when I got back into Thomas, and I would occasionally play it for a while. I remember that the game actually played the themes from the show, though I'm not sure if they were rips from the actual show or the well-known recreations from Sudri and Afro. Sadly, the original game isn't available anymore, as it was taken down due to copyright. But there is a fan recreation by a group called TNF Fan Club, and it's pretty much an exact recreation along with added content that attempts to emulate the original style of the game. It's also what you're seeing right now. As far as actual gameplay goes, it's definitely aged. The trains don't move very fast and the layout is both limited and confusing. It's not very clear on how to get yourself out of certain areas to explore further, and the lack of music in the game does admittedly bring the feel of the game down. Even though it may not hold up well by today's standards, it's still a cool insight in how Thomas games on Roblox once were. So when you think of early 2010s internet culture, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Actually, I don't care about that, and I can't hear you anyway. So do you remember the epic face, also known as the awesome face? You'll definitely know about it if you were playing Roblox in the early 2010s, as it's not only one of the most popular accessories from then that spawned several spin-off items, but it's also the face of John Shedletsky's Roblox avatar. I don't know why I mentioned that, but I just assumed that modern Roblox players aren't familiar with older stuff. Anyways, when I think about or see the epic face, it always reminds me of a game that I used to play as a kid, and was one of the first Roblox games that I ever played, probably even within the first week of me playing. When I was a kid, I wasn't really open to trying out things that I wasn't familiar with, and when it came to Roblox, I really wasn't sure what to play. I was only introduced to Roblox through the Survive the Disasters app that was released on January 3rd, 2014, and you actually had to make a Roblox account in order to play, so that's how I even got started. Roblox used to let users sort games by genre, so, as the picky kid that I was, I sorted by comedy because I didn't see any others that I was really interested in. This led me to finding one of the first games that I would ever play called When the Balls Come. The game is about defeating rounds of different balls with weapons, and you'd have to be somewhat strategic as the enemy ball count could easily overwhelm you if you weren't careful or were in a low player count server. You started off with a standard sword and gun. As you defeated the balls, you would gain experience and points which you could use to unlock and purchase better weapons, and even increase your walk speed and health. Every game was only one round, but each round would spawn a different type of ball, which would come with different characteristics depending on what kind it was. I think the amount of balls spawned also depended on how many players were in a lobby, and or how many successful games that were won in a row, but I'm not so confident in that last point because I was just a kid and I don't really remember much. Every so often there would be a boss that would spawn, and you would have to defeat it and the balls that it would spawn. Surprisingly, the game is still up and is somewhat functional. The default gun doesn't work, although I'm not sure if any other ones do since there's no way that I'm grinding for an upgrade when it's virtually impossible to get through a single round with just a sword. Unfortunately, save data no longer works, as upon leaving the game it'll just reset. Game passes also don't work. I have a fondness for this game because of the history that I have with it. I remember putting countless hours into the game, and it was probably the first Roblox game that I actually grinded. It was also one of the first games that I ever bought a Game Pass for. I was actually so excited to have Game Pass as a kid. It felt like an untapped power that you had, and you quite literally had an exclusive benefit that the free-to-play peasants could never possess. I don't know why, but I bought this dodgeball Game Pass for 8 Robux. I was probably pretty low on Robux at the time, but I do remember thinking it was quite amusing to use. The game pretty much died off, and I naturally drifted off to eventually find more Roblox games that would pique my interest. And then about 2 to 3 years ago when I got back into Roblox, I suddenly remembered the game that I had played all those years ago. I had no idea what it was called, except that it had a bunch of balls with the epic face on it. And I actually thought that the game was lost media for a long time because no matter what I tried to search, I could never find it. I remember one day I searched up old Roblox games and I looked through Reddit threads just trying to see if I could find that elusive game. I actually don't remember how I came across it again, although I'm convinced that it was through a Reddit comment. And all these years later, I was pretty ecstatic to find that the game still existed. Of course, I don't play it now and it's not really possible with just one player, and it's partially broken, but I'm glad that it's still here. Even though the original experience of the game probably won't ever be relived, it's still good to know that it's been preserved and still available to check out. It's pretty neat to look back on these games that I and probably many, or few, others played throughout our childhoods, and just from the past in general. It's cool to see the evolution of Roblox games and how certain genres and styles of games have evolved over the years with improvements and different approaches. The technical improvements of Roblox over time have also helped with the innovation of these games. The nostalgic factor of games from older Roblox will always have a strong presence, but it's undeniable that a lot of those games are technically inferior and have become stepping stones for more modern and better creations.